Well, it is the top of the hour, and welcome everyone to Annie's Project Showcase. Uh, Today we're going to be talking about Code Red, contingency planning tool for your farm or business. And this is featuring Indiana's Annie's, and we're thrilled to have Jenna and Kelly with us today. But before we get started, we're just going to uh, welcome you and let you know why we're doing the showcase and how this got started. Annie's Project is celebrating 20 years this year, and we thought what better way to showcase what Annie's does around the country than to showcase our different state Annie's projects and territory Annie's projects. And just give you an opportunity to have a little bit of information about what each project does, and then have a sampler of some of the things that you might learn if you signed up for an Annie's project. You can look for more information about the 20th anniversary on our website. We'd like to thank Farm Credit for their support of Annie's project over the years, and in particular for helping to support our showcase today. Just want to give a brief introduction. Ruth Hambleton is our Annie's Project founder, and she is still with the Annie's Project board. She serves as our treasurer. And I also wanted to introduce my co-CEO, Carisha Devlin. Carisha, you could say hello.
Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, depending on where you are in the country. So glad to have you join us for today's showcase.
Thank you, Carisha. And I'm Doris Mold, Carisha's colleague and co-CEO. So Annie's Project got its start by Ruth Hambleton. She had witnessed her mother going through some of the challenges of starting out as a farm wife and then becoming a farmer. And the original Annie was her mom, and Annie's Project is dedicated to her and based on her life experiences as witnessed by Ruth. Ruth served many years as an extension educator and came up with the idea for the Annie's Project while she was actively serving. And as I said, she is now serving on our board of directors and is the founder of the project. Just so you have an idea of what else we have covered during this showcase series, we have 3 sessions that happened this spring, and then we took a break in the summer, and now we're starting off our fall sessions, and we have today's session, and we'll have another session coming up next week, and then we'll follow up with one last showcase on November 8th. And it is our intention to continue the showcase series into 2024 with a new round of showcases. We do record each of these, and then we post them to the Annie's Project YouTube channel. Just so you know, too, a little bit about Annie's, we have a new pilot program that we've been working on where we're helping people that are underserved producers become crop insurance agents or loss adjusters. We're working with Risk Management Agency and 3 other organizations in this area. Right now, it looks like we've got a pretty full group of people that want to become adjusters or agents, but if there are openings in the future, we'll certainly let people know. Or if you would like to learn more about this, you can certainly connect with Carisha or I, or go to our website under resources, and you'll see some recordings for past sessions regarding this program. And we'd like you to book the date. We have a conference coming up this coming month, October 18th through 20th, and the early bird deadline for lower price registration and for hotel rooms is October 3rd. So I know Carisha will be putting some information into our chat so you can access that information, or again, you can go to our website, and the links for the registration are on that website as well. So with that, I am going to stop my share and welcome Jenna and Kelly from Indiana Annie's, Purdue Extension, and they will take it from here.
Thank you very much, Doris. I had to feel like I'm getting a little rusty, I guess. Apparently I didn't have my buttons all ready to go. So really want to thank Doris and Krisha for inviting us to share a little bit about Annie's project and some of the work that we have been doing in Indiana. I'm Kelly Heckeman, and I've been working with our Women in Ag program since the beginning. And currently my role has changed in the last couple of years, and I am a Purdue Extension Area Director now versus being an educator out in the field. And I'll let Jenna take an opportunity to introduce herself as well.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jenna Neese. I'm a Purdue Extension educator in Ag and Natural Resources. I'm located in one of the counties in Indiana, and I am currently serving as the Purdue Women in Ag team chair, and I've been with our team since about 2015.
Okay, thank you, Jenna. Just to give you a little highlight of what we have been doing with Annie's project in Indiana. I first had the opportunity to meet Ruth in the summer of 2004 at a conference and learned about Annie's project. And later that fall, Successful Farming Magazine ran an article on Annie's project. And I started getting emails and phone calls from women in Indiana wanting to know when we were going to host Annie's project. So Ruth graciously worked with us in early 2005 and kind of trained us informally on the fly. And we hosted our first Annie's project class in 2005. We had to do very little recruiting. We had a great support from women who had participated in our Women in Ag conference, and we had 18 women in that very first class. And it was a great experience. And from there, we continued to grow. And part of how we grew is that we did do several North Central Region Risk Management Education Center grants. One of those was a partnership with Ruth that we did joint between Illinois and Indiana. And then over the years, we did some other ones that focused on different delivery mechanisms. We followed the lead of North Dakota and tried to do some of those remote sites where we use different technology back in must have been around like 2010. And then we also would pair some Annie's inspired classes with that. So what we got from Annie's project was an increased interest in succession planning, commodity marketing, and financial management. So we tried to, at that time, before we actually knew them as Annie's Inspired, but would pair them with our Annie's project and invite our graduates to participate in additional focused classes as well. When Managing for Today and Tomorrow came out, we also hopped on board with that and got trained and offered that. And we also just recently offered it here in the fall of 2022, and we did it virtually. And again, we have done, I think, every delivery format and option of Annie's project that's available. Obviously, still face-to-face is preferred. And probably like many of you, when we do those face-to-face classes, always amazed that we will have women who will drive an hour, hour and a half to get to an Annie's project class if there is not one in their local area. Rarely in all the years that I did programming in agriculture and natural resources would I have men willing to drive that far to get to a program. So I think that really speaks very highly of the program and the importance that women placed on it to get that education. Again, we also tried, and we have done many times, and including with Zoom, where we would have Zoom a speaker that we would share at multiple sites who would have participants on site. And then during COVID as well, we had to transition to that virtual offering. And then in the last, in 2022 and 2023, we've also been doing some June classes. We often think that we can't do any programming in June, and we have been able to field a couple classes that have been done 100% by Zoom virtually. and have found success that way. One of the other areas also in the last 3 years or so that we found a renewed sense of interest in Annie's project was delivering what we called the urban agriculture Annie's project. So that focus switched to urban. And we followed Rutgers' lead on that and kind of followed some of their outline, modified that to meet Indiana's need. And the first time we did that, it was virtual. And again, very well received, great participation. And then we also received a grant then the following year from the North Central Region Risk Management to expand our reach of offering Urban Annie's Project. So when we think about what's next for Annie's Project in Indiana, we are always eager to find those level 2 or those additional programs also to support offering the level 1 Annie's as well. So we will continue to work with our educators and offer Annie's Project, hopefully the local level, and then also looking at some opportunity again, to offer some courses that are maybe more specialized based on unique producers that we have around Indiana. We currently have, I just had Claudette send me a listing. It's around 30 educators that are trained to offer Annie's Project. And more often than not, a lot of our educators will partner together to offer that. And one of the things that's really helped us in Indiana to get that increased interest is we have a program we call signature programs. So key programs that we want to see taught around the state, and Annie's Project was selected as a signature program in Indiana. So that has helped us as well. We haven't always had a class every year since 2005. It has varied. And it ebbs and flows, but we continue to find interest, and we'll continue to work with women and adapt Annie's to meet their needs as generations change moving forward. So one of the projects that we have been able to incorporate with our Annie's project class is a project that we call in Indiana Code Red, and I'll explain a little bit here in a minute how we came up with calling our project Code Red. But it is a tool that we look at as for contingency planning for your family and farm operation, and it can be used for a wide variety of people, and it can be very adapted. And Jen and I will show you some of the features of it and how you can adapt this tool basically to fit any circumstance that is out there. So our Code Red work, again, is part of our Purdue Extension Women in Ag team. I apologize. I need to update our website. They recently changed all of our websites over, and I forgot to update that website. And we also maintain an email distribution group for all the women that we have worked with in the past. So it's a great avenue for us to share information of our programming and things that are coming up. And as many of you may have Women in Ag conferences, we had an opportunity in 2011 to have a discussion one evening, and we just asked ladies if they wanted to talk about succession planning. That was often a topic that in Annie's Project that what women said, we want more information on it. We need to learn more. So we had a group of 5 to 6 women join us in the evening and talk to us about for 2 hours about the needs around succession planning and some of the challenges and what do they need to be helpful to be able to move forward in succession and estate planning. And in that discussion, Beck Wicker, who at the time was working with a financial institution that is now Beacon Ag Group. At the time it was not, but Beck talked about in her business that they had a red notebook, and they kind of called it their Code Red notebook. And in that notebook was all the important information, account numbers, everything they would need to know if an emergency happened, if the building caught on fire. They all knew that they were to grab that notebook and take it out with them. So as we thought about that discussion, and that Code Red notebook kind of stuck with us a little bit. And so we proposed a grant to the North Central Risk Management Agency, and it included succession planning, and included this idea of Code Red. And we were fortunate to have the grant funded. And during a part of that grant process, we did work with kind of shared this ideas with some women that had been at the conference, and we just simply asked them, will this idea work? Would you use it? Would it be helpful? And so we got, some comments back, like having a tool like this would be like having DNA and hair samples from your kids in the event they are kidnapped. Hopefully they are not. And, they talked about their security and diversity. So not having all of your info in one place. And if you lose it or it's stolen, you are done. And that's a consideration. And we'll talk about the security of this information and how to protect that as well. We're on the right track. Mom and dad took care of this. The children, often we find that the next generation doesn't really know a lot about who's making those decisions, who mom and dad are working with to pay bills, to where their investments are, where those important information is at. There's a lot of that information that we're not always really good about sharing with other family members. And then depending on generational differences, sometimes over the years, I've had some older generations share that that information is private and shouldn't be shared with anybody until I pass away. So there are some challenges, but definitely a need that arose that this was a tool that could be used. So, and it said, and the piece that I like is this information doesn't have to be only because when someone passes away. It is a way, this tool, Code Red, is a contingency planning tool, is really how I like to look at it. So if you're in an accident, suddenly you're sick, you're not able to function in your normal daily function, and someone's going to need that information to help pay bills, write paychecks, have access to power of attorney, all of this information. And it's handy to have it in one location, one easy place that someone can find. And it can also be a great communication tool. So with the grant in 2012 that we had to support the development of Code Red, I'll be honest, it did not happen overnight. We did get an extension on the grant. It did take us a while to really work through all of the pieces and different parts that we felt needed to be in Code Red, and worked with many different reviewers to kind of give us feedback. So we were finally able to release Code Red as a tool on a flash drive, at that time only available on a flash drive. And we released it in 2015 at our Women in Ag conference that year. So those ladies were the very first ones, and they got a complimentary copy as a thank you for their help in the development of this project. Since that time in 2015, we have distributed over 1,500 flash drives, maybe increasing up a little bit. But over time, we also made a decision. Those flash drives were always for sale, but we made a decision that we wanted to be a little more flexible in how the Code Red tool would be available to people. So we also have made it available on our website, and that is the updated website. And even though it says order, if you go to that website, there is a link there to get a free download of Code Red. The only thing that it does do as it downloads, it just asks you to register. And then we've been able to, we'll talk about at the end how we've been able to work with some of the people who registered from the download to get some follow-up information to see how Code Red has been utilized. And Code Red was developed, it's built in Excel, which allows us a lot of flexibility to make updates to it as we work with different audiences. So when we were working with our urban agriculture Annie's project, we realized that Code Red was probably going to have to be tweaked a little bit to meet their need, their audience, because it's really geared towards larger farm operations. So we did have a group that updated and was able to add a small farm inventory sheet to the tool to help make it more applicable to that urban agriculture group that we were working with at the time. So it is built in Excel, and obviously that is flexible. We wanted it to be so that if there were certain parts of that spreadsheet, that section that didn't apply to you, then you could easily delete it, or you could add additional lines, different columns to help capture additional information that you wanted to for that section. Probably what set this tool at the time in 2015, apart from other things that were out there, besides being built in Excel versus a hard copy only, we included social media in there. So what are those passwords? Who do you have social media with? And you know, and we can also pay bills, do so many things online. In my case, like if I were in the hospital not able to pay bills, my husband honestly would probably struggle a little bit. He's not as internet savvy and doesn't really know all the different accounts that I'm managing to pay, that we pay online. So those are the pieces that were added to help capture that. And over time, I've had some farmers buy the Code Red tool just for this feature in itself, to capture all those passwords that they have for so many different accounts. And our goal was that Code Red wasn't going to be meant to be for when you died. That was not going to be our only purpose of it. We wanted it to be a contingency planning tool as a way to a form of communication. Not all families, unfortunately, communicate very well with each other. So this could be a way that could bridge some of those gaps. It could be a way to help build the basis for succession planning for families moving forward. So we wanted it to have some flexibility for everyday living, not just for when a key family member passes. So one of the things that did come up is I have all this information on either this Code Red flash drive. What about the security of it? I mean, we actually did have some families, there's this whole trust things. They were really concerned about, if I put this all together, can I even trust people in my own family to have access to all of this information? That I can't fix, but we really encouraged women as they worked on the Code Red flash drive. Obviously, this should not be stored on the cloud. We don't want people to there's a lot of key information on there. So make sure you had a place that was secure to where you could store this information. We all have always encouraged everyone to have a backup copy. Invariably, something can easily happen to that original copy. But it's also key, right, to make sure someone knows where the copy is at. And then, and it's up to you to determine who gets that copy. But in an emergency, it was going to be a great tool that they saw that flash drive, it's red, it says Code Red on it, they could grab it and they knew that's where all the key information they needed was going to be available. And we have also always encouraged to make sure there's at least one copy that is maintained off-site. Unfortunately, there are fires, other challenges, tornadoes, natural disasters, and we just wanted to make sure that there was another copy that was protected, that was not there, so that it could also be protected. Okay, I think at this point I am ready to turn it over to Jenna, and she is going to show us what the actual Code Red tool looks like.
Thank you, Kelly. So, you should be able to see the Code Red screen once you open it up. It comes up with a nice, pretty cover page. You'll also be able to notice that down on the bottom, it's very color coded. All of the red section is just general information about Code Red. Purple is all your personal information. And if I move it over a little bit, the green is for your farm, or if you don't have a farm, just your business in general. You can easily adjust it for your needs, as we've described before. In addition to the actual Excel file being on the flash drive, there is a sheet or a document in there that's directions. It can be helpful, but if you're pretty familiar with Excel, you can probably jump right in. If we go to the next worksheet, it's just the introduction, which kind of goes over some of the stuff that Kelly has already talked about, and how it got started and who to contact for more information, which we actually probably need to do a little update on that, because Brian has taken a new position and I'm sure that's not the right telephone number for him. So we'll need to work on that too. Acknowledgements, Kelly's kind of already mentioned them, of the different ones who have helped kind of contribute to this and help us get the end product that we have now. Moving on to the table of contents. Again, it's that color code form that we had before. If you hold, I believe, yep, you can easily off that table of contents, click on one of these and jump directly over to that worksheet to be able to work on it. So you can easily go from here or do the tabs across the bottom. Personally, I like using the tabs. The setup page, though, is an important one. If you would have the flash drive, we do ask that you register it, or if you download it off the website, it automatically has you register for it. But that helps provide us with kind of an idea of how many people have started using Code Red, and also gives us a chance to maybe reach out and get some ideas on what else needs updated from your perspective. We have a place where you can type in your farm name and also date when you've updated. That way we know if you're looking at the most current version or if something didn't save right and some of the information could be old because it's rather old, especially in this case, my examples from 2021. Then we have a place for you to put your current password. Because again, we want this to be password protected. So you can put the password here, but it also has how to set up a password in Excel so that this entire worksheet can be password protected. So no one can get in here unless they do the password. And so it's pretty simple. Go to File, Info, Protect Workbook box, and then you can click the type in an encrypted password. Kelly kind of already talked a little bit about where should you store Code Red. We have a few suggestions. Again, not on the cloud. Make sure there's a backup copy. Decide who gets those backup copies. And remember, every time you update it, you have to give your whoever has your backup copy a new copy. That's one thing that's kind of important to keep in mind. Some suggestions, it could be family members. You could store a copy in your fireproof box if you have one, an attorney. If you've got a box at the bank, you can store them there possibly. It is up to you to make that decision, but please keep a backup and remember to replace that backup when you've made changes.
So Jenna, I'm
ahead.
sorry, I'm going to interrupt you for just a moment. Someone has a very good question that pertains to what you're covering right now. Why do you discourage storing on the cloud? Is the question.
So when we started developing this and everything, the cloud was kind of that mysterious factor that no one really knew about, and it was just getting developed and getting utilized. And so kind of that fear of, will the cloud ever break? Will someone access it and get it off of there? And since this has a lot of personal information and even business information, we don't want it to be somewhere where a hacker might get to it and be able to steal your identity or your business's identity. So it's just kind of that fear factor and just making sure that we pick a place that we can help control who has access to it. But good question. So now that we've gotten through kind of the beginning part, we'll talk a little bit about the personal information. And you'll see some similarities as we go through the personal and the farm information. But for the personal one, it really just starts out with as simple as what is your name, birth date, country of birth, social security number, and you just type them into the Excel box like so. So, oops, yeah, Jenna, birth date, 4/3, and you can just keep going down the information. You can easily go down and type in the information for your spouse. You could add a place for children if you would like, your home address, church information, if you've got a will or a trust, any discharge papers, if you're in military. You can list other information for other family members. Occasionally there will be boxes that have a little note. And so in this case, you can see a little red triangle up in the corner. So you can actually specify in here like when to contact a certain family member. So maybe if it is something that's related to your health, you only want certain ones to be contacted immediately. The others can wait till a later time or something like that. And you can do non-family members. Again, you've got when to contact. So you could say, these are important people to contact, but don't contact them. In my grandmother's case, I'll use an example. She has some friends. She doesn't want us telling them if she's sick. She wants them to only know when she passes away. So we have kind of specific directions from her on how she wants that handled. Here is that social media account information where you can list all of your email addresses, the logins, and the passwords. Again, you can easily delete stuff. So here's Foursquare. I don't use it. I can simply hit delete and get it out of the way. So it's not on my chart. I have a young kid at home. Her teacher uses a specific program for us to communicate with her. I could easily replace Tumblr with that program. And so it's very customizable to what you use on a daily basis or what you need for your life. On the business side, here's where you're going to include different insurance information, including the policy number and account information. I have internet kind of marked here because that one I have a good example in the fact that we don't always remember what our internet password is or what maybe the Wi-Fi password is for our house. And it's very difficult, like if you switch TV providers or streaming services, you got to know what your Wi-Fi password is, and it doesn't work. And this is really important for anyone at any age, but as we get older and we get more passwords, we don't always know how things work. And I know in my case, we're trying to set up my grandmother's streaming services, but we don't know the Wi-Fi password. So we're stuck in a limbo situation until we figure out how to reset her Wi-Fi password or find that little book that she has all her passwords written down in. But usually they don't say what the password is too. So then it's a guessing game. So having a document like this really kind of prevents that because we can have it all neatly organized. And that's not even an emergency. It's just simply life trying to get her situated. We have financial information, credit cards, information about your lawyers, vehicle license plates, and then a place for miscellaneous. So if you have other types of information that you think you might need to know or have someone be able to access in the event of emergency, you can easily add them there too. Power of attorney. We have different ones listed here that you can put their contact information for and what they have access to. And one of the things to let you know that some of these different boxes will actually autofill in important documents. So if we would put some information here, like where is the healthcare power of attorney, it will auto-populate on here, like where it is. So it automatically comes over. That is also a very nice feature of this and how it all works together. One of the nice things, since this is a flash drive, you can store a copy of the power of attorney on here, but of course you would also probably want one with you or have access to it so you can get to it very quickly in the event of an emergency. So I know some people keep a copy on their cell phone or on a flash drive that they keep in their purse, but you could also keep one here. But to give you an idea, if I put upstairs, because that's an easy one to write, it should show that it's upstairs, so it auto-populated for us. Along with other personal documents, you can see we have Social Security cards, where are they located, divorce decrees, marriage certificates, cemetery deeds, anything for safety deposit boxes and keys, financial documents, could be even just your checking and savings accounts, and proof that it doesn't matter on age. My husband and I literally can never remember the password to get into our banking account and check what's in our savings. So that's always a reset every time I try to get in there. For property, you can include stuff as where are the keys for the vehicles? When my grandfather passed away, we knew he had all the keys to all the vehicles for the farm, but he never labeled a single one. And so we have a big box of just keys that we're constantly trying to figure out what they go to. It wasn't until after they sold the family farm's house that we found the keys to the house. So that was a fun one to get to. For non-farm personal inventory, you can put anything from timeshares to specific jewelry, cars, campers, boats, motorcycles, guns, toys, tractors, antiques. And one of the things that we kind of have a note here for is not only listing them on here and giving you kind of an idea of the appraised value, but take pictures of them. There's extra room on the flash drive, so include those pictures on the flash drive so that if you need them, you can show them to your insurance agency and possibly recoup some of the value. Again, you might want to talk to your insurance agent to find out what is a complete list of inventory they recommend, but these are some of the big ones that we were able to list to get you started. As we move forward for personal information, we have the personal investments. Again, it's kind of self-explanatory. You just fill in each of the boxes for the stocks, mutual funds, bonds, life insurance, pension plans, IRAs, and contracts. Again, we've got passwords listed. We've got even just the loan amounts and all that basic information. For medical, we can list all the doctors. We can list even the health savings account and hospitals they like to use. Medications are listed here, so you would have to frequently update that as things change. And then medical allergies is really important. I know in my personal situation, I have 3 specific medications that I'm allergic to. My husband can't ever remember them, but he knows that we have them written down somewhere. We have some medical information listed here. It's really hard to read, but it does provide a little bit of information about things that you might want to consider with regards to medications. We do have some information for final arrangements where you can clearly state like what obituary ideas you may have, what newspapers or radios you would like the obituary listed into, what funeral home you would like to use. If you have preferences in who your pallbearers are or songs that are played, you know, for some individuals, this is something they really want to have control over or have decided on before their family has to deal with this so that they don't have to. And so here's an easy way to kind of organize it. I also have told people, you know, if you have preferences in what you're wearing, I know my grandmother does, and so we've told her to, you know, write it down for us and stick it in a special box so we know what you want. On here, we do have a reminder about how many death certificates we recommend you get, because you have to have those as you transfer different things over, and also know where you need to go get future death certificates if you do not have enough. But this is just kind of giving you a few different ideas of things that you could include on here for the personal side. I'll turn things over to Kelly as we go through the farm side of Code Red.
Thank you, Jenna. So yeah, we got through the personal, lots of information. Obviously, real quick, Code Red is probably not something you're going to sit down and get done in an hour or two. It's going to take a little investment in time. I know when we've used it recently in our Annie's project classes, we tried to assign 1 or 2 tabs at a time to help make it more plausible that you'll get parts of it completed rather than doing it all in once. So on the farm side, we just start with what's your farm business structure if you have one. Obviously, if you are a single operator, then this isn't going to be a page that pertains to you, but we thought about if you are an LLC or an S Corp, what are some additional information that everyone needs to know? So get all of that information filled in. You go to next one, Jenna, on finances. So again, a lot of this is going to kind of look very reflective of the personal section when we just changed it over to what particularly pertains to the farm itself. And have a really important section here on who are your landlords. You know, over time being an ag educator, I would get phone calls, especially from tenants. And I would get stories that, and maybe more so for them, but, you know, their landlord would, you know, they would suffer from dementia and they wouldn't remember everything that they had agreed to. So maybe in addition to this landlord section, it should also include another line probably we should add of who do you contact if the landlord is no longer available or has maybe access to some of this information. But definitely having that landlord information is going to be really key, especially if you have a family member who unfortunately passes away. And in a lot of, in some cases, the families that we work with, that next generation is not coming back to the farm, and they may not even live in the same state with mom and dad, and this will give them an opportunity to see who they are doing business with. So we can go to the next one. So just like personal here, where are all the important documents for the farm? And so hopefully this also encourages, especially on those contract and leases, that those do exist. And that we're discouraging handshakes, but at least if they do have a handshake or an oral agreement, a place to kind of also capture that information. So again, all of the things and the ability to add or delete what does not fit in your particular operation. Again, who are those important business farm contacts that you're working with? And, you know, sometimes I think we assume, well, everybody should know that. And the challenge is realistically, sometimes in families, they do not know who all of those key people are. And this just helps to find an easy location to have all of that. So again, the landlord information will autofill in this section. So handy, you don't have to do that as well. So vendors, and we tried to capture, make sure that we thought about livestock farmers, who would they be working with, as well as farmers who are on the grain side. So again, it's in Excel, delete what you need, keep what you don't. And if there's something we don't have, add what you need to add. So we also include social media for the farm, assuming that some farms would have something different from what the personal side would have. And then when we started working again in the urban ag side, realizing that for our small farm attendees, that they needed something potentially a little different. So this would be more geared towards small farm. So if I'm not small farm, I can just delete this particular worksheet and move on. But I'm going to grab all of those different things that I would have on the farm. And maybe for the small farm where potentially you have one person working off the farm completely full time and they may not be involved in the day-to-day management, this could also be something really important for them. And we've also included animal inventory on there as well. I think at the time I told Brian, I said, I own dairy cattle at that time. They were obviously housed at a different farm. My brothers and sisters, and even my husband, probably really had no clue how many I had. So if anything had happened to me without an inventory sheet, they would have not been aware of what I had. So I don't think it's that sometimes intentionally that we try to keep this information away from our family. Sometimes we just kind of forget that it's important to make sure we share that with them. And I think the other thing is not every farm's the same, and everyone's got different information they need to share. So just like the small farm, we also have regular farm inventory. And you know, it's, and some of you may have this in a different format. And if you already have it, you know, like Jenna said, we were thinking about it being on a flash drive. You could just save some of those documents with the flash drive, and it's already there. And if you're comfortable sharing on keeping it on the cloud, you could also keep additional supporting documents there as well. But we saw the flash drive as an opportunity to also store some additional and important information. We also felt that it was important if you had farm employees to capture some of that information. So again, some of the family members who may not be involved in the day-to-day operation of the farm, if they had to come in and step in and help with some of those, this information would be tracked there as well to assist with the employees that we have. And I think that's our last sheet, correct, Jenna? Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna get Jenna set up here real quick, and we'll kind of wrap up. No, I apologize. My computer is not wanting to, and it went the wrong direction for me. Yeah.
Just a few.
I wish it were Monday, and then I would have a good excuse. So, oh,
Went too far.
yeah. There you go, Jenna.
All right. So after you've completed Crow Red, we hope this is a great resource for you or your farm families to maybe turn that code red situation into maybe a code green, so things can run as normal as possible and everything can be as smooth as possible. It's not meant just for those code red situations. It could be just someone being on vacation for a while. Here you can see a quote from one of our users that they think this is something everyone should be using. There's so much going on with business that when you lose key people, it'll be a good resource for their information. Not only is it just a good resource for businesses, it's good for personal life. I shared some personal examples where it was just basic things that we needed that it's so hard to find when someone passes or someone starts getting dementia and can't answer those questions about their daily lives. So we have asked people if you've used it, how did you use it? And most of them have used it as a contingency planning tool. Some have used it for succession planning. I know of some families that have used it as the way to get started on that succession planning by saying, okay, let's sit down and just try one section and get that as the grounds of, well, we need to start planning for the future. And it's a good tool to start that communication or succession planning process. And then, like I said, 33% has used it for communication. So there's been a few different ways that people have used it for their farming operation or their life. So let's see. Oh, there you go. So why have you completed it? Because they've done the information for their children when they need to plan our funeral, to provide for my family in case my husband or I are incapacitated, you know, so my kids can find some things. You know, it's just a good repository of information. And so they've completed it for a number of reasons, but ultimately it's so that things can be as smooth as possible and life can continue on if there is a big situation or event happen in anyone's life that we're at least a little bit more prepared for, just like we plan for big storms that might roll in the winter. We do want to thank those that have helped us for this with this program, like Beck Wicker for giving us the idea, the Indiana Farm and Agribusiness Women for their support, reviews, and feedbacks, Purdue Extension educators that have helped with reviewing and developing the program. Kelly doesn't have it on here, but I would also say thanks to Kelly and Brian for taking that idea and running with it, because without them, we wouldn't have this to be able to provide to those in Indiana, but across the whole nation, because I know yesterday we got contacted from another state wanting more information about it. So that's been kind of exciting for us recently. So with that, thank you. Got Kelly's information in here to reach out to her. You're also welcome to reach out to me. I can put my stuff in the chat box, but we'll take any questions anyone might have at this point. We thank Doris and Krisha for inviting us to join you.
Well, thank you both. Very interesting. So I do have maybe a question or two to kick things off. So if you were talking to somebody that's a little reticent or just says they don't have the time to fill this out, is there a place that you get them started? Is there an easier place to kind of get them started on kind of completing it? I know there's some pretty stark things on that list, you know, such as the death certificate. That I think is a difficult thing for people to think about their demise or potential demise. So do you have some hints for, you know, if someone was going to, whether they are somebody who's using it or somebody that's trying to encourage people to use it, where's a good starting point?
So I can kind of start on that one, and Kelly wants to add, she can, but it's kind of like how we split it up today. I like to start with the personal stuff. I think just getting in there and writing who I am, and then going into the social media part of my life is the next thing, because I use that on a daily basis. So almost in the order that we went is pretty easy in my opinion. And when I gave this presentation last, that's kind of where I advise them to start, is just start at the easiest, which is usually right at the beginning, with just their basic, who am I?
I'm just thinking some people that might be business focused might kind of have the opposite opinion, you know, that, hey, I want to deal with the cold hard facts of business and not get to the personal stuff, or kind of wait on that.
And that could really be, I mean, if they're really focusing just on the business, if they're using this as the way to start the succession plan, then maybe it is starting with, okay, how is the business divided? As a way, or just basic, who's their contacts that they've reached out to recently, who's the vendors they've reached out. So let's start with the ones we've had the most contact recent with.
So you've said that you use this in succession planning, and or is maybe a way to entree into that. Have you had a lot of people that this is where they've started their discussion, especially those people that are like, I don't want anyone to know that until I die kind of people? You know, I mean, I think it's a really interesting thing when we're talking about that personal information and people's privacy, but also the need to know for the generation or the people that are going to be left behind, how important it is for them to know this kind of information and know the desires of somebody rather than imagining what they might have wanted to happen.
So the families that I know that have used this to help with succession planning have been ones where it's the younger generation just trying to get a little bit of information to get started and get the older generation just thinking about it. Those are the ones I've dealt with and that I've talked to. I don't know if Kelly's had a different experience or not on that one.
No, probably not. I think the way, and I was just reading the comment too, that, yeah, think of this as a gift to your family. And I know we've had some people who've reached out to us to get the tool, and they're going to sit down with mom and dad who are elderly, and they're going to walk them through gathering all of this information so they can avoid kind of, you know, the nightmare of when they pass and you don't have all this information. And we've had people also, you know, they've bought them as stocking stuffers, and going to encourage everybody in their family, and they were going to work together as support. So each one of them completed that information. We haven't surveyed users in a while, and we probably need to go back to that to see. And we've probably been better at using Code Red in our Annie's project classes recently than we have with our succession planning programs. In the beginning, when we released it, I think we were probably more diligent about working with succession planning. You know, I shared it one time with a group of crop farmers. I think they all looked at me like I was crazy, that they needed to, you know this information. And I think we probably need to get back to sharing it as a part of our succession planning programs again.
But I think you pointed out, and so did the person that put this in the chat, that it's really not always for you. It's not all about you. It's about your family. And if you want things, do you want to put them under more stress after something happens to you? Or do you want the family farm to pass on to the next generation? And if so, you better take care of some of these things in advance, right? So really.
And I hope, yeah, and I hope that we're getting better about talking about these kind of things. My grandmother, maybe not so much, but I hope each generation as we move forward, we get better. And in some regards, Brian always used to give me a really hard time about the funeral arrangement section of that code red flash drive, but no one wants to really think about when they're going to pass, but boy, it would be so much easier, right, if you had that tab filled out and it's all good to go, versus waiting till someone is potentially. I remember I knew my mom was at her close to the end and having to look at her and go, now just a reminder before you go in the hospital, I hope you don't die, but now who do you want to be arrange your funeral? That's the conversations you really don't want to have at that point. And if all of that can be thought out ahead of time, it would be so much easier for everybody. So I agree. It's a gift, not only to you, but to the family members who are going to have to help in a time when you need this information, this contingency planning piece.
All right. Well, and I think this is a big part of what Annie's is all about. It's about contingency planning is risk management, right? It's part of that whole thing. It's not just about planning your funeral, but, making sure that the business can operate smoothly in your absence, whether you're on vacation, you get in the hospital, or you pass away, or something, something else happens, certainly. Other questions or comments? Give people a moment or two. Jenna or Kelly, do you have any final thoughts that you'd like to impart on people?
I would encourage you to go online and download a copy of it. If you're interested in teaching it in a class or whatever, feel free to reach out to us and we can help provide you the information. We've had it presented in a few different states, and we are willing to help spread it around the whole US as people would like it.
And we've also had a couple of states put it together in a hard copy format. Penn State, I believe, was working with some Amish families and needed it in an alternative format. And we also have an educator here in Indiana that will have it available in a print version if someone needs a print copy.
All right. Well, thank you both for helping us make contingency plans and kind of stirring the thoughts, especially as at least in the Northern Hemisphere, we're heading towards the shorter days and longer nights, and maybe this is a good opportunity to get some desk work done after harvest and get moving through and start working on this. And we thank both of you, and we'd just like to encourage people to stop by to our next showcase, which is next week on October 6th. That will be Friday. And also just a reminder that we'd really like to see you on our at our conference. So that will be an in-person conference only, and that will be October 18th through 20th. And you can find more information by going to the Annie's Project website. And just so you know that this information, this session has been recorded, and we will be posting it. So if you learn something from this, we certainly encourage you to spread the word about this or the other showcases that we have. So thanks very much. And unless there's one final question, we'll say so long until next time.